It's Friday night. It's the preview show. It's the No Nay Never podcast.
Hello and welcome to the preview show brought to you by the No Nay Never podcast. It is, listeners, the end of the season. We've all got over relegation. We've all got over new managers. We've all got over just the uncertainty of what the next chapter will bring. So we thought it was an appropriate time to basically say goodbye to last season by crowning our Fantasy Premier League winners. Regular listeners will remember towards the end of last season that Statman Dave tantalisingly teased us with promise of reigning champions and handing over to new champions and all sorts of end of season stats. So, without further ado, let's get on. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and joining me, of course, is the main man himself, the headliner of the preview show. It is Dave Statman Roberts. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Natalie. I feel a little bit nervous this time because I don't have a script.
Listen, listeners, there was a bit touch and go as to whether we were going to do this preview show because I went into the usual script. You know that Dave likes his script. Nothing. And I went on and he said there's no script. We are effectively winging it. So goodness knows what carnage. More than usual, yes. Dave, don't give away our trade secrets. And you know, I like to have my little pictures that you put on my scripts and all sorts of things. But you know what? When there's a script, things can go wrong. When we're winging it, everything's go. So also joining us this evening, we will get to some of our guests in a moment, but also joining us this evening is resident FPL pro Adam Dennett, who will, I'm pleased to announce, be playing a much more key role in our FPL season next season. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Natalie. Just fresh off listening to the podcast from earlier this week with the company news, some good news there. And then just before we've come on tonight, the Ben Mee video.
Oh, so don't. I can't talk about that yet.
Feeling a bit emotional on it.
It is. We missed you in the analysis show. Where were you? You didn't come on. We were all buoyant. You left us, Adam.
Yeah, well, I think it was quite a wide-ranging section of views, weren't it, really? And I was probably more in the Tom camp, the less optimistic view. Yeah, the company view is the company appointment's brilliant, and that has brightened it up. But I felt a bit meh about it all since, especially since the Ben Mee announcement and all the players leaving. And yeah, it were a long, hard season. I think once we start signing players, that'll make me feel better.
We've signed a manager. Come on.
I know, but I didn't want to dampen, especially George's optimism. But Tom tried his best to do that as well. But
he did.
Yeah.
To be fair, which is probably not unexpected at all. Me and George were like the Duracell bunny jumping around in excitement. Tom was very whelmed, I think he said, and Rich was kind of in the middle. This is where he was. Dave, you are nodding your head, saying that you were in camp Tom as well. What's the matter with you? What? This is the team I've got to work with, listeners. When can we? What do I need to do to drag some enthusiasm out of these lot? Dave, what's the matter with you?
I think once the season gets started and we win a few games, that'll kind of get the thing going. But it's a little bit getting used to things, really. It's a change we've had so long in the Premier League, 6 consecutive seasons. So to finally lose our status and go down, it was obviously a body blow, and just takes a bit of getting used to, I think.
It is, but we've been here before, guys. Come on. We've only had 6 seasons in the Premier League. It's going to be fine. Burnley Football Club was here before the Premier League, and it will be here after it. So, anyway. Now we've got that out of the way. Listeners, we also have some special guests this evening who I'm going to bring in shortly because we, of course, need to get down to business. I'm going to move away from the debacle that is enthusiasm levels. We're here to crown some No Nay Never FPL winners. Dave, I cannot even remember when the last preview show was, never mind what we talked about in terms of the results. So I'm going to hand over to you. You can go rogue if you want because I've got no idea what you're about to say. But come on, fill us in. What's been going on?
Well, yeah, we weren't able to do a final update, obviously, because the preview show was we did the Newcastle preview before that game, and I think we may have missed one before that because the way the fixtures had fallen, we had a midweek game. We weren't able to get an interim update either, so there might have been one or two changes. What we do have, though, is we can confirm our top 10 of our main No Name Never League. As we said at the start of the season, we had 325 entrants this year. That was a new record. And we've got down to the crux of it. We've got our top 10. So I'll give us a top 10
off you go.
Countdown,
Please do. Do you need a drum roll? Do I need to get Matt to put in a... I don't know how to do a drum roll.
Yeah, he'll sort that later.
Okay, yeah. Drum roll. Off you go.
We have got our top 10. So we have got... Well, a confession to make before we start. I did say to Adam what we're going to do today, and we have a bit of a conflab beforehand. I said to Adam, well, we're going to do the top 10. He kind of took umbrage at that slightly because he's in 11th place. So Adam Dennett is in 11th place on 2,500.
Thanks, Dave.
Actually, hang on a second. Before you get into the top 10, you and Adam had a conversation before we recorded about what we were going to do tonight. When was anybody going to tell me what tonight's preview show was all about? I've been left in the dark.
You probably saw it, didn't you?
Oh, okay. Did I not read something? Okay. Moving swiftly on, Dave, a top 10, please. Off you go. Okay,
we've got in 10th place, Ursay on 2,510. 2,511 was D Hunter. In 9th place. 8th place was Chris Horner, 2,513. We had Chris Stanworth in 7th on 2,516, all very close here, all this top 10. A little bit of a jump. Sean Retty, who we had previously on one of our FPL specials this season, on 2,529, that's 6th place. Jacob Satwell was in 5th on 2,532. Callum Davis in 4th on 2,534. Getting down to our top 3 now, we had Will Cooper in 3rd place on 2,539. And our top 2, in 2nd place, was...
Not me.
Tall Paul on 2,551, which
Does this mean I won? Which
means that our winner was Luke Lambert.
Yay!
555 points, the worthy winner.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we are delighted to let you know that Luke is with us. He is the special guest we've been teasing you with in the background. Luke, welcome to the No Name Never preview show. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I've got a little bit of a confession to make. I didn't actually realise that I'd won the league until a few weeks afterwards, because my coping mechanism for dealing with the debacle of the final day of the season was to come off social media, not read any newspapers, not look at any league tables of anything. So I completely switched off and tried to do something completely different. And yeah, so I actually didn't have a clue that I'd won until a few weeks after the close of the season. That's
absolutely fine. Listen, we are all for media blackouts. Team No Name Never, literally, we didn't record a podcast for about 6 weeks, so you're all right. We couldn't bring ourselves to even get behind a microphone. Well, congratulations. That is no mean feat. 355, did you say, Dave? Something like that. Players. I guess just talking you through this, and we do like to get our reigning champions on, because to me, the whole FPL thing is like an urban myth. I'm quite sure it doesn't. I don't know how you guys do it. I try really hard sometimes, and I always finish near the bottom. So what I want to get you setting off on, please, Luke, is like, what was your strategy? How do you approach FPL?
I think the key thing that I mentioned on one of the previous shows was to make sure that you spend as much time as you can on it. A lot of these things, it's about looking at different people who've put things on social media, so you can get information from them, following what the top players in the world are doing, and sort of following their lead on things. You need a bit of luck, which I've always said in my previous years. Sometimes I've done pretty well, and sometimes I've done quite badly, and that's often down to luck. And yeah, just take each week as it comes. Try not to be reactionary. If something happens in a previous week, try not to make your transfers too soon, or do anything because you're annoyed or because you're frustrated. Maybe just wait until until nearer the time. I do know people who set alarms on the phone to remind them of the deadlines and things like that.
Wow, this is
it
intense.
very seriously. But yeah, no, I mean, putting as much time as you can into it is very important, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I do struggle with. And I have an equivalent of the alarm going off in that I have Dave. So instead of an alarm going off on my phone to remind me of the deadline, I get a message once a week from Dave going, Bromley, FPL team, cheered it. And actually, I suspect my strategy this season of realising about 3 weeks into AFCON that I still had half a squad that were at AFCON probably didn't help. And just as a suggestion, listeners. So I think, Luke, in terms of doing your research and doing your homework, what resources are there out there? So some of our players, we've had some players who have joined every single one of our leagues who will join again next year. Where do you send them? What do you recommend that they do in terms of their research?
I think looking at things like injury tables.
Yeah.
So trying to find out who's injured, and if you know early on that a player's going to be injured for a few weeks, thinking about how you obviously want to get that player out as soon as you can and replace them. That's important. Looking at the fixtures well in advance. And there are plenty of people on Twitter who put the fixtures out there. Somebody called Ben Krellin, he's very good, and he tells you what fixtures are out when. And just like I say, looking on social media as much as you can. Some people actually have their own FPL social media accounts, so all their content is just based on social media, and on for FPL.
I've just got a question for you, Luke. I think a big thing that impacted your season looking at it was your chip strategy, because obviously you were at the top of the table for a long time, up until maybe around game week 30, and then maybe drop down a few places. But then obviously you played all your chips quite close to the end, and regained top spot back to where you were for most of the season. How important do you think planning for the chips is, and what do you make of your success with them this season?
Yeah, I think, again, planning ahead, it's been very difficult with the COVID position this season, but I think sometimes the response with chips is to play them early doors if you have a bad game week early doors, but 38 game weeks is a lot. So, if you're playing your wild card in the first few weeks, or you've only got two wild cards, and if you're playing them early on, it's difficult. So making sure that you keep them in the bank for as long as you possibly can, and trying to use them. Trying to not do something too drastic with them. Use them in a way that's the percentage play. Talking about percentage, I was saying previously, a lot of poker players are very, very good at FPL, and I believe, Natalie, you're a poker player yourself.
Yeah, I am definitely an exception to that norm.
yeah. So, but I think sort of working out sort of the percentage play and keeping the strategy consistent is important, and I think the same is of games like poker. So using that similar approach.
Natalie might be a poker player, but she's also got the Bromley curse. Antonio was averaging 13 points a game when she brought him into his team, and after that point he got sent off and averaged 3 points a game for the rest of the season.
You see, I would argue that was the Dennett curse, because that was the 1 week in the season that I took your advice. I messaged him separately and went, look, I really want to contribute this year, and I want to do better than I have been doing. What can I do? And he told me to put Antonio in my squad. Got sent off and then was rubbish for the rest of it. So actually that's a Dennett curse, not a Bromley curse. But no, I think, look, those points are really, really good. I genuinely don't understand in some respects why I am so rubbish at FPL, because the game theory is something that I'm massively passionate about. I apply it to my poker play a lot, and I love, one of the things that I love about poker is the strategy behind the game, particularly tournament poker. It's like test cricket, it's like chess, it's there's so much to think about it. I suspect my problem is that it's just time I have too little of it and I'm too stretched all the time with the things that I've got on. But as Dave will testify, this season, when I've started to understand what those magic beans actually are, that they do things, and with Dave's little reminder to do something with my team every week, I finished, I think, higher up this year than I ever have done, Dave, didn't I? I think I did, baby steps.
Well, do you want to actually go through? We've got 5 of us who are in the podcasters mini league, and I can give you your standings.
I think
as we said, we had 325 managers overall, and I think you were dicing with relegation pretty much all of last season, but this season you stayed well clear. You finished on 1,766 points, and that's in 271st place. So there were more than 50 managers below you.
Best ever score. Yep. Excellent.
Above you, Matt was in 209th position with 1,921. George was in third in our mini league, 191st overall, 1,950 points. I improved year on year. I got up to 53rd place out of 325, which I was aiming for top 50, didn't quite get there. But got 53rd in our overall league, 2292. And Adam, we've already mentioned, well ahead. Not only was he top in our mini league, 2504, 11th overall, but he was also the No Nay Never Podcasters Mini League Cup winner. So he beat you, Natalie, in the final. You beat me in the semi-final.
I was going to say, I'm sure I won something in that.
Yeah, you played Adam in the final, and I got more points than both of you in the final week, but obviously I'd been knocked out, so that's cup football for you.
That's Adam's retribution, because a couple of weeks before it was our head-to-head match and I absolutely annihilated him. I got about 80 odd points one season, which is a lot for me. One season, 1 week. Well, I think one of the things that we would like to do, I was thinking about this the other day. I haven't run this past producer Matt yet, so sorry, Matt. But I think it would be a really nice touch if we invite our reigning champions to enter our No Nay Never Mini Podcasters League next season, so that they can go ahead to get against us. So it's rude. It's just rude. So Luke, obviously, is our league winner, and our cup winner, who we'll reveal shortly. I think would be very nice to invite them to our league next season. But please go gently on us. Before we move on to the rest of the show, then, Luke, I guess almost like the dream dinner guest question, but a bit of an FPL twist on it. If you could have a head-to-head game next season, FPL, with any current playing footballer, who would you choose?
An FPL. Gosh, that's an interesting question. I suppose I'd go Ashley Barnes, because I think I'd beat him.
Okay, that was cold. I was thinking along the lines of, it'd be a really great tactic. I went, who can I beat? Ashley Barnes. Do you know what? This is what makes champions. Champions, They are ruthless.
The thing that's I've got a bit of a beef. My cousin, who's Matthew Lambert, also a Burnley fan, I've said he's not allowed to enter the No Nay Never Podcast FPL League because he's actually finished. He actually finished 543rd in the world overall.
No way! That's amazing.
Yeah, which is like crazy. So, and he's a keen poker player. And he takes it incredibly seriously.
How do I not know your cousin? Matthew.
He's a very, very good FPL stalwart, and he's done very well. Just one final point on FPL. I think it actually might be easier next season with Burnley out of the Premier League, because you don't have that same emotional connection to picking your teams. Like, I had Cornet in for 3 or 4 weeks, but it was a bit ridiculous. I just thought Cornet's going to score. I actually brought McNeil in for a couple of weeks.
Ooh,
and I was like, surely he's due a goal or an assist. Surely, just law of averages. He's gonna create something or score soon. So yeah, maybe that'll make it a little bit easier for everyone next season.
That's a really good tip. Yeah, I think I had Ben Mee in all season. I think, like, literally on that same emotional pull, I was like, Ben Mee, and we were shipping about 4 goals a game. Well, Luke, are you going to stay around for the rest of the show? We'd love to have you, because we're going to do a bit of fun.
I can do. That's no problem.
Do drop off if you need to, but yeah, it'd be great if we could keep the rest of the season. Lambert, so I'm calling you all by the wrong names. Dennett, 11th. What is this performance? You didn't even break into the top 10. You're supposed to be our expert.
I know, disappointing. If they're going to be breaking into the mini league, I think my expert tag is under threat. I need to up my game next season.
This is why I've done it. I want to give you some competition because you're far too far ahead the rest of us. I want to give you a little bit of a run for your money. I think you very much share a lot of Luke's tips there, didn't you? You've talked a lot to us this season about what we're going to do. I guess before we go on to crown our cup and then look at the None and Never Alternative Awards, we haven't yet decided what format our FPL is going to take next year in terms of a podcast, but we know that's something that you're going to be leading from the team. What can our listeners be doing over the summer to prep for next season, if anything, or is it just too soon?
No, I think it's probably a good day to ask that question because the fixtures were released this morning. So I think that's your first port of call. And then there's some quite obvious ones. Liverpool and Man City both have really good runs at the start of the season. But I think it's at the start, it's picking players that have had a good pre-season and guaranteed starters for the sides. There's no harm in going for the template team at the beginning, and then jumping on the players that are obviously on form at the start. So yeah, that's my advice. I'm quite relieved you're keeping FPL and not making us play the fantasy championship game because after so many years of us outside of the championship, I would not know where to start on that one.
No, I would be picking 11 Burnley players because I wouldn't even know. Actually, you can't even do that, can you? Because the rules don't let you. I would be doing that thing. And actually, this may be a strategy I adopt. When you say there's no harm starting with the template team, by that do you mean when you just press that pick me a team and then you stick with it, and about 6 weeks later you remember to change it? Because that's kind of what I do. No,
so it's probably like the high ownership players. So you'll be able to. There's people on Twitter who will be probably giving advice from an early stage. A lot of FPL experts out there who will do a lot of the analysis for you. There's no harm with going with that. Yeah, you probably have the odd gut pick, but if you go too much against it, you risk having a terrible start and just really struggling from the off.
Excellent. I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish top 50 next year. I'm going to finish above Dave. That is definitely what's going to happen next season. Above Dave and in the top 50. There you go, listeners. That is my statement of intent. I'm very competitive, apart from when it comes to FPL. Dave, I think then let's wrap up FPL by crowning our cup champion, please. I'm still not entirely sure what this was, but I'm going to defer to your better judgment and tell us what happened.
Just to recap for you, the cup was basically, I think it's a relatively new thing they brought in. What happens is, depending on how many managers you've got in your league, you have sort of a preliminary round and then you have a knockout. And the intention is to get to the final two for the final week of the season, for week 38. So it kind of works back. Week 38, you've got your final with 2. Week 37, you've got 4, 8, 16, 32, so on. So I think we started around week 30. So there was like a prelim round, and then it kind of worked through 31, 32, 33, right through until the end of the season. So we got to the point where we had the penultimate week of the season, again, week 37. And our 4 semi-finalists were Aidan Thompson and Lee Banks. And Lee Banks won that semi-final, got through to the final. And in the other semi-final, it was very close again. We had Basil Ilan-Kana and Craig Smith. And it was Basil who got through to the final. And when the final was played, these were the scores they accumulated in that game, week 38. Lee Banks with 68 points against 34 was our winner. So Lee Banks was our FPL winner.
Woo! Well, we were supposed to have Lee on as well, but I think we might have had a few technical issues because he's not yet joined our Zoom call. What we will do, we'll try and get hold of Lee and get some comments from him, and we'll put them on social media separately, a little bit of a thank you and acceptance speech. But Lee, congratulations. Both you and Luke, as our reigning champions, do qualify for a prize. I'm not telling you what it is, and there's a very good reason for that, in that I don't yet know what it is. Matt and I will get all of the end of season prizes and everything bought in the next couple of weeks and distributed over the summer. So both of you, please do drop us your addresses in the DMs and we will get those sent out to you. And don't forget, to all of our players who won Manager of the Month awards, please, this year, you do qualify for the very wonderful Nona Never sticker, and I think we only managed to send 3 out. Not everybody got in touch, so we will put on social media who the 9, it must be 9 in the end, Manager of the Month winners were, and if you've not yet claimed your sticker, please do so. Is that everything on FPL? Dave, was there anything else we needed?
I think so. I think it's an interesting conversation you're saying about next season. It's kind of, I can see the point of view to say, well, no, there's no Burnley players in it next season. So in some ways that simplifies it. It takes that emotional decision out for picking Burnley players. But again, I think there's kind of a little tinge of sadness that there won't be any Burnley players in there for next season. That's kind of a bit of a bittersweet one, really, in terms of FPL for next season. I think it's one of those where I'm kind of not tuning into it now. Although I did see it was interesting this morning. The fixtures came out at 9 o'clock, and within 10 or 15 minutes, Ben Crellin had basically posted a spreadsheet.
Wow.
For all the how he gets this, I don't know. But he had all the fixtures, so all the 38 fixtures, who they were playing, whether it was a hard or an easy fixture, whether they were home or away. So it's all colour coded, so you could see what the fixture difficulty was. So as a starting point, that's as a resource we were saying, amazing. That's fantastic to have. But I think it's one of those where, as it gets towards the start of the season, then kind of the interest will build for that. And although obviously Burnley aren't involved, we'll still be covering that next season. Yeah,
definitely. Please don't tip me over the edge, Dave, just because it's painful enough is today. And we've had fixtures released, we've had FPL updates we're not involved in, and Ben Mee's farewell video. I'm an emotional wreck this evening, listeners. It's going to be.
We've also had Nathan Collins scoring an absolute for Ireland, and I still can't stop thinking about his handball against Newcastle in the game of the season.
I'm not friends with him yet.
Playing like Beckham.
I've forgotten about that anyway. Actually.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten. Well, it's the same thing as well. Did we all see the slightly unsavoury spat between Weghorst and Connor Roberts? So why couldn't you do that for Burnley? I mean, Connor Roberts asking the question that every single Burnley fan was asking, so fair play to him. It was like, he speaks for all of us, Wout, every single one of us. They've still not made friends yet. But I also got quite alarmed today that Nathan Collins, when he was talking about company, said he doesn't know where he will be in the next 10 days. I was like, well, you're not going anywhere. We can't lose Nick Pope, Ben Mee, Tarkett, and Collins. I'm quitting if that's the case. I'm going to quit football. Right, let's move on. Before we go, listeners, we are going to have a little bit of fun to round off the season, because we, as we do in most seasons, sent out on social media the Nona Never Alternative Awards show, and we asked you 5 categories of items that we wanted you to predict what won the Nona Never Alternative Awards. So let's go through what those were. So first up, category number 1, and Adam, I'm going to come to you first to talk to this. It is our unsung hero of the season. Now, before we get on to who the nominations for this category were, who did you think of? Who immediately sprang to mind as somebody that you would want to nominate?
Probably, I can't remember who I voted for now. It's been that long. First one that springs to mind is Nathan Collins. Just because of how brilliant it was when he came in, especially early part of the season when he hadn't played a big part. Every time he came to the side, he performed admirably. And then hopefully that people won't just remember him for that gaff against Newcastle in the last game. Overall, I thought he was tremendous last season for someone 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that was the first one that sprang to mind. But like I said, I can't even remember if he was nominated. Never mind who I voted for. Yeah.
Well, luckily, I'm here to put you out of your misery there, Adam. I'm here for you. Don't you worry. For nominated players for your unsung hero of the season was Nick Pope. Unsung hero? I'm not sure I agree with that, but Nick Pope was number 1. Jack Cork, number 2. Nathan Collins was indeed number 3. And the other one was Mike Jackson. Now, I've got an issue with Nick Pope and Mike Jackson being in this list because I think they were very sung heroes. I think we were loading them from the rooftops. I think very much. What are you trying to show me here?
Oh, I did vote for Nathan
You
Collins.
did vote for Nathan Collins. Yeah. This made great radio listeners, but Adam somehow was flashing up his like phone screen to my Zoom call, which of course bounces off the light. I've got no idea what he was talking about. I thought I was seeing things then. I thought I was moving to the light. Well, with a whopping 35% of the votes, listeners, you chose Nathan Collins as your unsung hero of the season. Now, Luke, we talked about this slightly off air before we came on here, and we're not quite over the fact yet that we're not forgiving him for his handball against Newcastle, but also since the end of the season, he seems to be playing like some Brazilian superstar for his country. What's going on there?
Yeah, crazy. It's his goal for Highland was absolutely brilliant. And I just really hope that he does stay with us, particularly given that Tarkowski and me have gone, and he's the mainstay of our defence for the next 5 years. I think he's a top player. He's only 20, which, when you actually think about it, is astonishing. Really, his ability for a 20-year-old. I actually got a friend who's a Stoke City supporter, and I spoke to him when he joined Burnley. And I said, "What's Collins like?" And he said, "I'll be captain of Ireland one day without any question at all." So, So it's good, and I just really hope we can keep him and hope that he's with us for a long time.
Amen to that. Well, let's move on to our next category. And Dave, I'm going to come to you with this one. Our next award was our result of the season. Now, before we get on to the nominations, what sprang to mind for you when you thought about a result?
Well, I nominated this one when we were discussing it previously. My nomination from Unsung Hero didn't get included in the 4, strangely.
Oh, I'm really glad I came to you on this one then. Sorry, Dave.
I went for Billy Mercer in the Unsung Hero, because I think the time he'd been at the club and obviously went without very much of a goodbye. He was my left field nomination. But in terms of result of the season, I thought that our win against Everton should have been really the springboard for our survival. Wasn't in the end, but fantastic comeback under the lights at Turf Moor. Fantastic result against a team who we were down there with at that point in time, and they were really struggling. And that was my nomination for result of the season, and it came to fruition. That's the one that the listeners have voted for.
Oh, spoiler alert. Well, I was gonna build that up then, listeners, and give you the 4 nominated characters and who won, but Dave's just done anyway. So you know what? Do you know what I told you? I told you at the beginning of the show that Dave was going to go rogue. This is what happens when we don't have a script. He starts giving away answers. Well, let's backtrack slightly. Yes, Everton at home did indeed get the award for result of the season with a whopping 49% of the votes. The other 3 fixtures in that category were Spurs at home, the 1-0 win. Watford away, which was that was the one that I chose actually. That did come a very close second with 34%. And Wolves at home, the 1-0 was just 2%, but they were the ones that were there. I'm going to stay away from Dave now before he ruins anything else. Luke, I'm going to come to you with this one. Our third and penultimate, no, actually, we've got 2 more categories after this one. So our third category for None and Ever Alternative Award of the season was Goal of the Season. Now, Luke, surely we could have just put 4 corner goals in this.
Yeah, I thought the corner free kick against Leeds was a good one. I think probably that's my favourite goal of the season, partly because it's against Leeds, who I have a even bigger hatred for now than I did a few weeks ago.
Same.
So yeah, corner against Leeds, just the technique of that free kick was a good goal. Brilliant. But meaningless. But anyway, still my favourite, I think.
How cold our hearts are. Well, actually, for the first time since we did this, that did not make the shortlist. I will tell you the 4 that we did get nominated for this award. Cornet's goal against Leicester was one that was in there. We had a second Cornet goal against Palace. Both of those were deemed to be better ones than the Leeds goal. Connor Roberts against Southampton and J. Rod against Manchester United. Your winner, listeners, with a massive whopping 54% of the votes was Cornet versus Palace. So it seemed very fitting that we would end up with a Cornet goal. Adam, feels kind of sad about relegation, doesn't it? That we're probably going to lose him now, and we only got a few short weeks with a pre-AFCON Maxwell Cornet in our side.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's part of, well, probably one of the biggest disappointments, that we did actually have a very encouraging transfer window last summer, bringing in the likes of Cornet and Roberts and Collins, and then obviously with the previous transfer windows that have probably resulted in us getting relegated, the under investment over a long period. It would have been interesting if we had stayed up, whether we'd have continued to invest in the youth and foreign market, which we might do anyway, but obviously not to the level that we could have done. Just his enthusiasm throughout the season really was infectious right from the off. Watched him against Rochdale in the League Cup, and he were trying to get the fans up when we won a corner, and you just like, who is this guy? He was just brilliant. Just so different than what we've been used to before, and yeah, the amount of goal, even the one against Leeds could have been nominated. The one against Brentford.
The Brentford one. Yeah,
did a step over and whacked it in top corner. Just so much quality there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it dropped off a bit, but yeah, you'd think it would be the last we'll see him of his in a Burnley shirt, but yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I'm not going to wait and see. I'm pretty sure he won't do. Quick question for you before we move on from Cornet, Luke. Will Burnley Football Club ever get a cooler player than Maxwell Cornet? I say no.
I agree with you. I think he's been absolutely. I think he's been absolutely brilliant, and I think the thing for me is that he's really, really enjoyed playing for Burnley Football Club,
yeah, he has.
And I think that resonates with a lot of supporters. And I think it's really, really important that you have that connection between players like him and the supporters. And to be honest, I think it's almost the opposite of Wakehorst.
Yes.
You know, Wakehorst is, you know, somebody who's come from a different culture and come to Burnley, and that connection just hasn't been made, even though he had a pretty good start on the pitch. Like the assists that he got, I can't remember who it was against, where he laid someone in. Was that J. Rod? Did he put in? I think for one of the goals. I can't remember. Anyway, and you know, you were hopeful that he would hit the ground running and carry it forward, but he didn't do. Whereas Cornet has just been magnificent, and the fact that he's probably going to leave is sad. But good luck to him, and I wish him genuinely all the very best, and I hope he has a really, really good career.
Yeah. Gosh, it's an emotional roller coaster, is this week's episode, isn't it? I feel like I might need a stiff drink by the time we finish recording this one. Let's move on before we all start weeping into our cups of tea. Dave, I'm coming back to you on this one now. Can you please try not to spoil the result this time, please, Dave? Thank you. Try and keep you in check. The penultimate award tonight even is Limbs of the Season. Now, I'm going to put my grandma head on here a little bit. I'm not sure I'm cool enough to understand this fascination with limbs. What does this mean? Can somebody explain to me what limbs of the season? Is it just when the crowd goes bananas and everybody jumps up and down and goes crazy? Is that all it is?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Limbs of the season. Okay, you know what? I've gone past that stage in my life where I care about being cool, so I'm all right with the fact that I don't fully understand what this means. That said, we do have some nominations. Dave, I'm going to talk you through them, and you can tell me if you agreed with any of these. I think this might be a better strategy than you spoil.
That's probably better, yeah.
Yes, there will be limbs if you spoil more things. I'm not sure that worked, but never mind. First of all, I can't read this because Twitter's gone into a thing. Brownhill's goal at Watford. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. There was limbs in my living room because I wasn't at Watford. Cornet's free kick against Leeds is the second one. Is that the goal that you were just talking about then, Luke? That's the goal, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Cornet's winner against Everton. Oh my days, that was, oh my gosh. I think I was going to pass out with that. And finally, Ben Mee's header against Spurs. I think it's pretty clear which one of those was a clear winner, Dave. But did any of those resonate with you in terms of being the limbs of the season?
Well, I can understand all of them. I can less so on Cornet. That was, we only drew the game, we won the other three, so that kind of makes a difference. I think to be top of this one, you've probably got to be a late winner. That always helps. It's got to be a spectacular goal. So my nomination was the Cornet winner against Everton. I think the fact it was at Turf Moor, that helped. So there obviously a lot more of us there to see it. But have our listeners gone for that one, or have they gone for a different one?
Oh, well, 29% of our listeners did agree with you, Dave. However, unfortunately, there was a very disproportionate amount of voting, and two of these only got 2% and 5%. So with a massive 64% of the votes, it did go to Brownhill's winner at Watford, which I think is probably justified. I think that was the moment where I genuinely believed that I thought we were going to survive. I thought that for me was the peak of the momentum under Jackson when that winner went in against Watford. And to see that side go from being down and losing and just the horror of it all to turn it around away from home like that, I thought was spectacular. So yes, there you go, listeners. And a newly crowned limbs of the season. I still don't get this. Please, somebody come on and explain this to me. Somebody way cooler than me. Okay, finally, we're gonna end with our special guest because that's what we do on this show. We're gonna come back to you, Luke, with the final alternative award of the season, and that is Nick Pope's save of the season. Now, this doesn't really work for radio, but Matt quite handily said, "See image below for a quick reminder." Generally speaking, then, Luke, before we get on to a specific save, Nick Pope, absolutely. Possibly his best season for us this year? Discuss.
I would say not his best season for us. I thought it took a bit of time to get going. I thought in the early weeks of the season... Oh, of course,
yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah,
there were a few games that he wasn't quite at his best. But just to pay tribute to him as an individual and as a player, I think he's been absolutely magnificent for this football club. When he came in for Heaton, I remember it was the Crystal Palace at home game all those years ago when Chris Wood scored. We were 1-0 up. Heaton goes off injured, and you think, that's it. We're going to be really, really struggling here. And he comes in and he's just performs brilliantly from that moment. And he's been great. And just a credit to him. And I think, again, bias. I think he's England's best goalkeeper, and I'd have him in the England side. And I think and again, if he moves on, although there doesn't seem to be that much interest in him at the minute.
No,
I think I was quite surprised about that, but yeah.
Well, that's quite interesting because that's where I was going to go next with this, Luke. In that, there's been quite a lot of discussion on Twitter this week about nobody showing any interest yet, and actually, we're valuing him at a good 30-40 million. And I think one of the most obvious points behind this is that leaving Burnley won't do anything for his England chances. He's not going to displace Pickford as number one.
No.
He's probably still going to he's probably established enough in that England side to still go in as number three choice, even if he's playing in the Championship. So actually, what's the point of leaving? And actually, who's going to pay the 30-40 million that we expect from him in terms of valuation? I think we could end up with him next season.
Yeah, the one club I think that might come in from is Newcastle. They're the only ones I'm worried about at the minute.
Newcastle cannot have any more Burnley players. I do not like that club, and I do not like Eddie Howe, and they're not having any more. I see a rumour somewhere that West Ham might be looking at him as a replacement for Fabianski? Although I would suggest it might go a bit younger than Pope for a replacement there.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Adam? Do you think where do you think he'll end up?
Well, there's rumours gathering today about Newcastle. His odds on to sign for Newcastle now, especially with Henderson looking like he's heading to Nottingham Forest on loan from United because he was the goalkeeper most strongly linked with Newcastle. It surprised me slightly given the reputation that he's picked up and not be able to play the ball out with his feet. But I think he kind of improved on that at the end of the season with when Jackson came in, he was distributing it quickly with his throwing, and I don't know. Maybe they've got more faith than the media having him. But the fact that he's only got 8 caps after being so consistent over all those years, and you can count the mistakes on one hand. He's just so calm, and he's been fantastic for us. And he should be close to the England number 1 spot than he is right now.
I completely agree. Well, this is a very difficult category to do a shortlist because it is more visual than it is anything. So I'm just going to go tell you who the result was. 48% of you listeners awarded his Traore header save at Villarreal. It was the Nick Pope save of the season. But if you do head to our Twitter page, like I say, producer Matt has put a little handy cheat sheet on there just to show you some visuals of Nick Pope saves, which we might all be crying over. If we end up with a farewell video from Nick Pope, I'm done. I literally will. I'll quit Twitter because I can't cope with crying so much. So there we have it, listeners. Let's not dwell anymore. We are going to wrap up the 21-22 season of the preview show right there. We have had a fantastic time this season bringing you all the stats and all the previews ahead of a jam-packed, often disrupted Premier League season. Dave, a very, very special thanks from me and on behalf of all of our listeners for the unbelievable amount of work you've put in this season to making the preview show. This is an incredible product that I am so lucky to collaborate with you on. I get to just listen to some fantastic stats and I get to hear firsthand the just great work that you put in behind the scenes and getting all this together. We really hope that you'll be with us next season. We think we will be. We think we can talk you into it if we can sign you for another season, which will look very different because it's a championship season. So Dave, Matt and I, listeners, will sit down in the summer, actually, which is getting on a bit now, we better get a move on, just to have a think about how the preview show can change next season and what it's going to look like and how we deliver content to you in a very, very, very jam-packed championship season with earlier cup games, etc., etc. So watch this space. We will get our heads together and we will let you know what we will bring. But Dave, in the meantime, thank you so much for everything you've done. My thanks also to our special guest, Luke. Again, congratulations, our league winner, and to our resident FPL expert, Adam. Oh, hang on, Dave's wagging his finger at me, listeners. I think I'm going to get interrupted here. Go on, Dave. What have I done now?
I had a terrible thought.
I
had a terrible thought that we set a quiz question in our Newcastle United preview show. We haven't given the answer to it.
Did we? Well, if I had a script, I would have known. I'm just saying. Okay, Dave. Very quickly, did we set a quiz question?
We did. I've just checked. Ooh, yes. Would
we
like to give the answers to that? Put our listeners out their misery since it's been weeks since we.
I'm going to rely on you to do this because I literally have nothing. I have no content in front of me. Nothing. Go on. What was it?
Right. Well, the quiz question was, prior to this season, so the season that's just finished, Burnley had only won 4 Premier League matches in the month of May. And sadly, even though we're playing lots of matches in May, we didn't do too well this season. But I wanted to know the names of the 4 teams we'd beaten in Premier League matches in May.
West Ham?
Hull City?
Ooh,
well, you know what? Okay, I'll give our listeners a little treat here. I normally put a quiz answer on the spreadsheet on the notes that we do, and you actually realised when we're going through in the previous ones, if you hovered over that cell, it gives you the answer. So you know what I've done this time?
Oh God, go on.
I've put a little note on there that says "No cheating!" !
See. That would have been fine if you'd have given me a script. Then you could have properly wound me up about it, but you didn't. So joke's on you, Dave.
Well, it is, particularly as I can't remember who the 4 teams were.
Oh, for goodness sake.
In May.
I know the answers.
Go on. Okay, go on, Adam, go on.
Because I assume
have you just Googled this?
No, I sent Dave the answers and he gave me a thumbs up.
Adam did send me the answers and got them right. So, you want to put us out of our misery?
Yeah, I think it was Spurs in 09-10 season.
Yeah.
Hull
good shout,
and
Luke.
Villa in the season that we got relegated
2014-15.
13-14. Both away games, and then Fulham away in
last season.
The season
before.
2021, yeah.
I knew there was a London club in there. That's impressive. Well, We have genuinely no idea if anybody got it right, because do you know what? Would this be a No NNN Never podcast without a little bit of chaos towards the end? This is a fitting way to end the season, with a little bit of chaos.
Well, it is, Natalie, as well, because it brings us in neatly to something we're going to do as well. We've got we had Pope Master as our quiz last summer. Adam Dennett was our reigning champion, and we decided to sing a little bit different this season. Rather than doing the individual recorded podcasts and go through that process, I've actually compiled 15 deviously difficult Burnley quiz questions plus a tiebreaker. So what I'm going to do is I've got that ready. If anyone would like to enter, if they could go through the normal channels, so they can either send us a direct message, please, on Twitter. That's at NoNayNever. They can email us, previewshow@nonaynever.net. And we will get those quiz questions to you. And then we'll give you maybe a week or two. And we're going to be upfront on this. You can Google it if you like, or use any other Burnley stats resources that might be out there. There might be one or two you could use, and see who can come up with the most correct answers.
Excellent. I think the plan is as well, I think that we are going to do a show where we reveal the answers. So if you want to play around with just for fun, listeners, you're more than welcome to. But if you want to be in with a shout of actually winning and being our the big No NNN Ever Summer Quiz winner this year, you will need to submit your answers before we record that show. We will mark them and we will unveil live on air who our winner this year will be, and we'll have Adam on there as well. So our reigning Port Master Quiz champion will hand over to our big No NNN Ever Summer Quiz winner. So keep an eye on social. He won't win again. I'm not going to let him. Actually, shall we? I would say we're not allowed. He's not allowed to. He's not allowed to enter.
Oh, is he not?
No. Yeah, you can. You can.
That's
You can. I'll let you answer. Right. So yeah, do keep an eye on social medias for those listeners, because we'll get those. We'll get that launched in the next week or so, and then we'll have a little bit of fun. That is definitely all we've got time for now. So my thanks, as ever, go to everybody who has contributed to getting this podcast out on air, to my special guests, Luke and Adam, for giving up their time today to go through all of those fun and frolics. Dave, again, obviously, I've already thanked Dave once, but for Dave Statman-Roberts for compiling this list tonight and getting everything out there. Producer Matt, who constantly has to edit some quite difficult recordings of the preview show, and for his general work on the No NNN podcast. But finally, to you, the listeners, for downloading and listening to this episode. Your support is very much appreciated, and we would not be here without you. We will be back next season, listeners. Do stay tuned. We cannot wait to be by your side in the championship season, see what this next chapter will bring. But no matter what happens, all of the Clarets will be in it together. So have a great summer. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and we will be back with you before you know it. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the preview show brought to you by the No NNN podcast. Until next time.